Hey everyone, Mr. Happy here, and in this video I want to share with you my thoughts on how Monk is playing out so far in Endwalker. Monk, one of my all-time favorites, across the whole franchise actually, and this version, it's got some Final Fantasy VI flavor to it and some big damage. For this video, I'll be including some footage from the recent Pandemonium normal raids. If you haven't gotten to do those yet and you want to avoid spoilers, just minimize the video, and when you hear me say take care in the outro, then it's safe to open the video and exit out or whatever you gotta do. You've been warned. So Monk, oh boy, what a topic. This job has been a roller coaster for years. A Realm Reborn and Heavensward Monk was strong, but people cared a lot more about very specific raid synergies, so Monk was kind of left in the dust a lot of the times in those expansions. Then Stormblood rolled around, and we got to see some of the best and worst iterations of Monk as a job to date. Shadowbringers had a similar trajectory, but in 5.4, we essentially got a design reset that set the stage for Endwalker Monk to bring us something new. So how did that turn out? I'm not gonna lie, I love this version of Monk for a number of reasons. While the job has moved away from doing things like maintaining the Grease Lightning buff, and it even lost 4 out of its 6 positionals, I'll talk about that a little more later, it's maintained its speed and it's introduced a new job mechanic, Masterful Blitz. In perfect balance, your next 3 weapon skills can be done in any order to generate Beast Chakra. Depending on how many different chakras you generate from those skills, you execute a different finisher. It's kind of like Ninja Mudras, but for Monk, and you do it with your weapon skills. This then unlocks your Nadis, which, when combined with Beast Chakras, allow you to execute an insanely powerful finisher. Burst windows get intense, and while it's a job with massive optimization possibilities, it feels intuitive for the whole thing, at least for me. So pros for the Monk. First, I gotta give a shout out to them reworking the early levels for Monk. I'm a huge fan of moving important job tools to lower level ranges, and then scaling them up at higher levels, giving them new animations, and making them more satisfying to pull off. This lets the player get familiar with the core concepts of the job early, so they're not bombarded with what feels like a completely different job at a random level. Now, Monk doesn't circumvent that entirely. They get meditation stacks at level 15, which makes the early levels feel great, and you get your blitzes at 60, so while you do get perfect balance before that, blitzes do give you quite a different feel for the job at that point, but it does feel overall better when progressing through the leveling process. More of this on other jobs in the future, please. Now, as for the job at 90, the new blitzes are basically all I want to talk about. They're incredibly flexible, and they're super powerful and satisfying to pull off. As described earlier, when you use perfect balance, your next 3 GCDs can be performed freely and generate Beast Chakras. The Blitz itself becomes one of 3 skills depending on your Beast Chakras. Now, Blitzes will then generate Solar or Lunar Nadis when you execute them, and with both of those and any 3 Beast Chakras, you perform your ultimate Blitz, Phantom Rush. So the goal is to do perfect balance to get 1 Nadi, another perfect balance to do another Nadi, and then your next perfect balance will be a Phantom Rush. It's pretty simple and straightforward. It's weirder to hear in words than it is to actually do. So your Solar Nadis, you'll need to use one of each of your different stance skills. So you need to use 1 Oppo skill, 1 Raptor skill, and 1 Coeurl skill. Your Lunar Blitzes, it's all 3 of the same stance, so most commonly you'll do 3 Oppo skills since that's a Dragon Kick Bootshine combo. And then Phantom Rush is any combination of Beast Chakras so long as you have the Solar and Lunar Nadis. What this means is that when executing your Solar Blitz or Phantom Rush, you have a ton of freedom on how you achieve these results. Yes, there are optimal ways to enter your damage burst phases, and top tier monks are really going to shine with their mastery over blitzes here, so great skill expression for those who really take the time to learn the job. But unlike many other jobs in the game, Monk can take these opportunities to fix things in their rotation if they made any mistakes, or at the very least they can make sure they don't fall out of line with buff window timings by at minimum just making sure the end result of a blitz is the correct one during these times. This was in fact the result of me attempting to play level 90 Monk. Before I made this video, I wanted to try it out, read a few things, practice it, because I knew it all, I understood it all, I played it at the media tour. That's not the same as really playing it on live and trying to play it in a more active environment like normal raids or EX trials. I knew what I was supposed to do, but untraining years of Monk muscle memory and replacing it with this new system, I made mistakes as someone who's not super practiced on these new systems yet. But even then, as long as I made sure I was doing the correct blitzes, I could take that time to fix certain things. Oh, let me do Twin Snakes instead of True Strike because I messed that part up. Oh, I went into my burst wrong. I guess I can replace this skill with that. And as long as I got the Blitz, and I made sure I was keeping uptime on the boss and everything in between was normal, you know, the way Monk normally has functioned up to this point. It was just, I couldn't believe the flexibility after playing Bard, after playing Summoner, where even if they're simple, even if they're easy to understand, they're so rigid. And this just doesn't feel rigid, it flows. And that's kind of how Monk should feel, and I'm glad that they captured that here. It also helps that Monk has two very functional openers right now. That's not to say other jobs don't, but the way that they actually are incorporated I find very interesting. Now, one of them is traditional. It involves opening both a Solar and Lunar Nadi in the opener, and then every odd-numbered minute 13579, whatever, you'll Phantom Rush during 1 minute buffs. It's a weaker Phantom Rush window, but your blitzes are all so powerful that it's not really that bad to do it this way. The other opener, the more popular one, involves performing 2 Solar Blitzes first to offset their generation, because then at the 1 minute mark you'll get your Lunar Nadi, but then at the 2, 4, 6, 8, etc. minute marks, you'll have Phantom Rush during everyone's burst window, and you get those huge numbers that are so satisfying even after the stat squish. But both of these rotations have their pros and cons. The rotations are flexible and have potential fight-to-fight optimizations. Not to mention one big thing that I don't really hear that many people talk about. I've seen a little bit of discussion about it. Perfect balance is 40 seconds. You can optimize blitz timings and fights with weird total encounter times to make sure that, oh, maybe I won't get to my 2-minute buffs, but I might be able to just do a Phantom Rush without any buffs before the fight actually ends. And having that kind of freedom to do stuff like that, again, I just don't see it on jobs, on other jobs in Endwalker, but on Monk it's there and I love it. And like I said earlier, Monk's damage is stupid good right now. Well worth the effort of mastering. Now, so far in my job thought videos, I come to like the con section, there's this shortcoming. I'm kind of at a loss with Monk because the shortcomings it has don't bother me when I'm playing it. Example, Thunderclap. Amazing new gap closer they have. They can dash to allies, they can dash to enemies. It's a great skill. But we used to use Shoulder Tackle as off global cooldown damage, and then there was the skill expression of understanding when you could use all of them, when you need to save one for a mechanic. There were little things like that. And not to mention, Monk as a whole, outside of their buff windows, doesn't really have a whole lot going on. Some might argue that that's kind of the boring part of Monk, is if you're not in the middle of doing blitzes, you are just doing, 1, 2, 3, shift 1, 2, 3. You're just doing your basic combos. And whatever, that's fine. It doesn't really bother me all that much because your burst windows are insanely busy. And again, Thunderclap just feels good, so I'm not really feeling like I lost much without these off globals that Monk doesn't have anymore. And then you still have the odd skills, or at least ones that the community would consider odd. Six-sided star, it's that finisher / downtime tool. It hasn't changed. You'll still use it in all the same situations you used it before, and some people were kind of hoping it would evolve from what it was at before. I didn't mind it, so I don't have much to say. A Knotman, still a Knotman. It's the same as the 5.4 implementation. But again, because of the changes to the job and kind of changes to the way the game works as a whole, optimizing it during downtime is a bit more valuable now, given how it can let you roll more quickly into burst windows after downtime. So, there's that. Yeah, a Knotman is still a Knotman, but I have more applicable uses for it now, so I guess I'm just not bothered by it again. And of course, you're definitely expecting me, I already preluded to it earlier, to rip into the loss of Monk's 4 positionals. They only have positionals on Snap Punch and Demolish now. I loved Monk positionals, and the thought of losing them upsets me. It's just such a fun thing to do, and it was the only thing that made Monk exciting to me before. That being said, we didn't have blitzes before, and the blitzes in the heat of the moment, I kind of understand why they're gone, and I do feel it's a fair trade. It would have been awful if they had taken them away and not given us something as involved as Masterful Blitz, but it kind of just works out at the moment. One day I wouldn't mind either, getting them back, or maybe another job that has a lot of positionals, but I'll be honest, I don't think it's going to happen. So I'm glad I enjoyed this, because if I didn't, that would have been a huge bummer. Now, I'm sure if I really dive deep into all the little things about Monk, I could find things that are mildly tedious or annoying. In fact, even while I'm recording this, I'm just looking down the skill list and I'm like, Yeah, another thing is they have, one thing I didn't even mention about the Nadis is there's kind of like a Ninja Mudra Bunny equivalent of the Nadis called Celestial Revolution. Basically, if you ever have 2 different beast chakras instead of 3 different ones or all of the same one, then you get this weaker single target weapon skill that will open a Nadi that you don't have. By default, it'll open a Lunar Nadi, but if you already have a Lunar Nadi, it'll open a Solar one. So it's a bunny that still does damage, a decent amount of potency. It's not great, but you know, it's 450. It's better than being like 0 like an actual bunny is. And it's a pretty cool animation, and it makes sure that your entire rotation doesn't fall out of line because you made a mistake. That's like the best failure condition I could think of. So how am I going to rag on that? I can't think of a reasonable way to rag on that. Riddle of Wind. Okay, that's weird. It's just auto attack speed. And don't get me wrong, auto attack speed is great, but it's not very interesting, so that's kind of a con. Riddle of Earth, now that it's only damage reduction and it just has the 3 stacks for the 3 weapon skills, probably could be reworked to be something, I don't know, less weird. Now that it just isn't for positionals, I don't know why it still has that like triple stack and losing a stack per weapon skill thing. I don't know. That could use some update. Those are such minor things compared to Masterful Blitz. I like blitzing. That's it. That's the whole video. TLDR, I like blitzing. Move on, record next video. We're done here. On that note, seriously, the video is done. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like, favorite, subscribe, and share, and I'll see you in the next one. Until then, take care.